Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a flashlight video. Today, we're taking a look at the Wowtac A1S V2. Now, it's the Black Scout Survival version of this knife, and this is a fairly budget-friendly flashlight. Wowtac is sort of the budget division of ThruNite, if you will. And so essentially you're getting something very similar to the Archer V12. I think that's probably the right name, but the ThruNite Archer, you guys know what light I'm talking about. This is going to be similar, and that's kind of how Wowtac works, but they've just made some compromises to get the price point down. The anodizing is not as thick and heavy duty. It's not, type 3 hard anodizing. They've also, the emitter is probably not going to be as good as your higher end ThruNites, a couple other things like that. Now, the biggest compromise is going to be the warranty, and the warranty is a little weak. I'll share that with you. If you go to their website, it just says you can return this basically new in box for a full refund within 30 days. All right. That's pretty weak. Other than that, they say, yeah, you can send us your light and we'll fix it for you, but the parts and the shipping is on you. Well, for the price point of this light, which is very affordable, I will give them that, it wouldn't make sense to send it for repair. You'd just be buying a new one. All right. So that's a bit of background on this light. The Black Scout Survival version comes with that heavily crenulated bezel as well as a red filter. Otherwise, I think normally the light would ship like this with a non filter up here, without the filter option, without the heavily crenulated bezel. Okay, now let's get into size, weight, and brightness on this light, since that's what most people are most concerned about. Then I'll talk about construction, beam shot, power, function, all that kind of stuff as we work our way through the video. Now, size on this it's basically a full size, tactical light, 5 7/8 inches, so it's almost 6 inches long. It's almost 1 inch in diameter. You can see that varies. All right, and it's 4.8 ounces. So this is not a little, EDC type drop in your pocket flashlight. This is a fairly substantial tactical light. And if you need that and you've made allowances for that kind of carry, then this will work just fine for you. In terms of an EDC light, I don't generally EDC a light of this size unless I have a specific purpose for it, okay? And if you stick around to the end, I'll tell you a really quick story about why I've switched from a smaller EDC light to something bigger while I'm, in my bunker gear, okay? That's when I'm responding to a fire call or some kind of, first response need, I will bring something like this, and I have a story to go along with that. So now that we've got the size and weight, let's get to the brightness. This guy has a number of settings: low, medium, high, turbo, SOS, and strobe. The brightest it can go in turbo is 1150. The low mode is going to be 24 lumens for 6 days. Medium is going to be 140 lumens for 18 hours. On high, it'll be 460 lumens for 5 hours. We already talked about turbo. SOS and strobe are also at that highest setting. Okay, so those are the options in terms of brightness that you're going to get with this. While we're talking about that, let's roll in some beam shots here so you can actually see those brightness settings in action. Okay, so here's some beam shots on the Wowtac A1S. There it is in high. I'll quickly cycle through the modes for you so you get a quick look at all of those. So there's low. You're not going to be able to see it. I guess if I look right at the ground, you can kind of see. There we go. Now we're up into medium. There's high, and there's turbo, 1150 lumens. Okay, let me flick that off and grab you a couple of other lights. Here is the M2R Warrior. That's 1500 lumens, so you can see that's quite a bit brighter. And here is the Olight S1 Baton. That's 900 lumens, so a little more comparable to the Wowtac. Both of those, I would say, are just a little floodier than the Wowtac turns out. So let me get the Wowtac back over here for you really quick and go through the modes one last time, and then we'll switch back over to the tabletop. All right, so there we are in high. If I press it one more time, it's going to go into low. If I shine it right on the ground, you can see it in low. And there's medium, high, and turbo. All right, now that you've got a good look at how this light looks in use in the backyard, let's go back to the tabletop. Okay, so now that we've taken a look at the actual function of this light, or I guess the actual beam shots of this light outside, and compared it to a couple of other lights, let's point out the power is 18650 battery with the charging cable. We already took that out and took a look at it, so I'm not going to do that again. But something that some of you will want to know is, how does this function, okay? What works those various power settings? And the initial on-off is going to be a tail clicky. All right, so we got a tail switch right there. And then over here, we have the button that we can use to cycle through the modes. All right, and that goes from low to medium to high to turbo. I do like the fact there's nothing special you have to press to get into turbo. If I leave this here and just don't rush and I press it again, I go back to low. If I cycle through the settings quickly, then it goes into SOS mode. All right. Now, what about strobe? That's probably the one thing you're wondering. Well, back here on the tail clicky, you can do a tail switch. Some other reviewers use that term tail clicky, and I actually don't like it, but I've maybe listened to too many of them these days. Anyway, you can half press the tail switch, okay, and that'll do just momentary on. If you double press, there we go. It goes, triple press goes into strobe, double press goes into turbo. And if you've double half pressed, so there's 1, 2, it's in strobe now. If you push that down for a full click, it stays in turbo. The same is true of strobe, only it's a triple press. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There we go, it's in strobe. If I push down, then it stays in strobe. All right, so fairly simple operation on this light. And I will say, I do appreciate a simple functioning light. I think we've all had that situation where we've kind of forgotten, oh man, what do I do now to get this light to work? Especially, I've talked about that with some that have a really long wait time. You push the button and you keep waiting and waiting and waiting. Let's grab a couple of quick comparisons here. I've got a couple of Olights. The Olight M2R Warrior is going to have a little more in terms of functionality and certainly more brightness. Here we have another light, and this I think makes the point that I was making earlier. This light I think is better for EDC because it's quite a bit smaller. Now, yeah, you're losing some of the functionality, and you're certainly losing the option to use it as a force multiplier, which is kind of the main feature of tactical lights. And if you need that, okay, so let's back off. That's not the only good thing about tactical lights, okay? I would carry one of these lights if for any reason I needed something just a little more substantial than your typical EDC light. If I want the extra power of the 18650, if I want the extra strength and durability, or the extra ability to hold. So you do get, the ergonomics on this could easily be something that you would prefer. All right, now, let me very quickly tell you a little story before I give my overall thoughts on this light. I always carry a small, a CR123 light in my pocket, just about all the time, all right? And I've often carried those lights to me when I'm responding to a fire call, either, an actual fire or some kind of, first aid need. One time we responded to a fairly substantial factory fire. We were there for hours. We finally got the fire out, and the owner wanted to go back in. Once we leave the scene, that building is not going to be suitable for occupancy until an engineer goes through and says you're allowed to go in. And so the owner, knowing that while we were there, came by and said, listen, can I get in the building and pick up some stuff that I need and shut down some of the breaker panels? So Chief says, yeah, sure. All the fire's out. It's totally safe in there. We're just doing overhaul. Kevin, can you go with the owner and take him to wherever he needs to go in there? Sure. So I grab a flashlight. It's one of our service lights, the little through night. No, I'm sorry, the little streamlight. I guess they're not that little. The streamlight fire service lights. You've probably seen them. They're a side angle light, and they strap onto the front of bunker gear. The only problem with them is, over time, the batteries don't function that good. And even at their best, they're not super bright. So I had that, the battery started to go, I shut it off, I pulled the light out of my pocket, which was an Olight as well, but it was the S1. So that's the smaller version of this guy, and it takes a CR123. Well, Before long, that light started crapping out on me and giving me problems. I'd had to turn it off and turn it back on. And so it just didn't have the juice that I needed for the longevity that I wanted it for. Anyway, after that experience, I was like, you know what? I'm going to have an 18650 light in my bunker gear. And this is a perfect option because it's budget friendly enough that if I break it or if it falls out or something like that, I'm not going to be, crying. It's tough enough that I can crawl around and, and go through tight and enclosed spaces and climb over things and through windows, whatever else I need to do without worrying about breaking it. The retention is nice and strong, so it clips onto my pocket really well. So for all those reasons, this light works really well for that. And it's something that I have made a practice now of doing, is bringing a full-size tactical light to emergency scenes rather than a smaller CR123 light. So what do I think of this light overall? I really, really like it. The price point is fantastic, especially when it comes to what you get in terms of brightness and options, right? This can do lots of different modes. It's got strobe, it's got SOS. And you're getting all that for a very reasonable price point. So for all of those reasons, I really, really like this light and highly recommend it. Make sure you check the Amazon links down in the description box below. If you use those links, it does help the channel. Thanks for watching, and we will talk to you soon.